right, let me make sure this is set up. I think we are live. It's a little bit of a delay on the YouTube, but let me just make sure. Can you guys see us? Yeah, there we are. Okay. Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining Benebell Wen and me. So let's just take a look at the chat real quick and say hi to, wow, girl, you are bringing in a crowd. Okay. Hi, Jamie, Wandering Mountain Bardic Path. Hi, Temu. Hi, Jonathan, Lily, Deck Harlot. Let's see.
Deck Harlot?
Isn't that like the best name ever?
Trademark infringing and stealing. I love that name.
Lorica. Hi, Sarah. Okay, Sarah, I'm making you a mod. How do I do this? Make Sarah mod. I don't know. Here, add moderator. So hopefully that will. And then let's see here. Heather, I am also making Heather a mod if I can. So that they can keep the trolls at bay.
Do you have many trolls?
No. Wow. You know, yeah. Because I'm a smaller channel. Yeah, but you bring in a crowd, so you might. Who knows? Who knows? Okay. Hi, Lori. Hi, Serena. Okay, so thank you. Sorry if I missed anyone. I am going to do my best to try to multitask with the live chat. If you have any questions for Benebell, just tag me. Put our names in capitals. Hopefully, I'll be able to see you. Great, Jonathan. Just got the notification. Awesome. Okay. Troll slaying powers activated, Sarah says. Thank you, my dear. I really appreciate it. All right. So I don't think Benebell Wen needs any introduction. And, we were just gonna have a casual chat about, whatever. We have some topics in mind, but, whatever happens. Hi, Regina Tarot. So, as you know, Benebell is hard at work. Is James actually laboring away, packing the decks and everything right now?
At this exact moment, he's out cold sleeping because he was up till 5 a.m. So he was packing decks until 5 a.m.
Oh my.
It's been crazy over here. Oh my gosh, the stories.
Okay. Well, we'll let him sleep then. That's Hi, Rosemary. Good Journeys Tarot. Hi, Zane. Tarot Token Witchery. Okay, so obviously you've got the Spirit Keepers Tarot Revelation, and we will get into that a little bit. But anything that you want to see of Benebell, and including a lot of information on her recent deck, you'll be able to find it on her channel. I have the links to that below and her social media. So check that out for sure. But let's start off with an icebreaker. You want to do that?
Sure.
Okay. So I did this with Zane. So this is the rapid fire firsts and favorites. So the first deck you ever bought?
I purchased 1971 Yellow Box Rider-Waite Smith because I was to learn on that. So that's the first one I purchased.
The first deck you ever passed on or gifted?
The Tarot Nova, the Nova Tarot Nova, something like that. Yeah, I passed that one on.
Is it the small, like
the tiny one that comes with the palmistry book?
Yeah. Okay. First deck in your collection that was not RWS inspired?
I guess just the Thoth.
Okay.
That's pretty straightforward.
First thing you ever started collecting?
Stamps. I was a blowhard nerd. Yeah, stamps. Can I flex? I had like some stamps from the 1800s. I had a real legit stamp collection. I'd go to antique shops and I would go to the one little stand where they would sell the stamps. I knew how to go through it to find the really good ones.
Wow.
Yeah, I was a stamp collector.
You were past tense, no longer?
No longer.
Okay. Yeah. You still have the stamps though, right?
Of course, I absolutely still have stamps. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. First pet.
Lotus. Lotus was a hamster. My very first pet was a hamster.
And when did you have Lotus?
In my college years. And
Okay.
when Lotus died, I was traumatized. Oh my God.
No.
I was so traumatized because Lotus only lived for like 4 years.
Hamsters don't live that long, you know? But I think isn't 4 years, that's kind of like that's a longer time frame, I would think, for a hamster, no? Or maybe I'm confusing that with
I think
mice.
4 years is about average. And you know how
Okay.
he died? Okay, my mom fed Lotus mooncake. And so apparently the hamster loved mooncake. So she just kept feeding it because, she kept eating. And so then she died of overdose of mooncake.
Oh my God.
Mothers kill all my pets. First is my mom, then it's my mother-in-law who killed my cat later on. So yeah, Asian mothers kill pets.
Your
Not
mother
on purpose. Obviously not on purpose. But
yeah, no, I understand. Wow. Zayn, I think Zayn had a pet story in his interview. So I don't know. I don't know if Benebell beat you on this one. I'm not sure. But wow. Okay. This is interesting. Let's see. First movie you saw in the theater.
Prancer. Do you remember Prancer? It was a live. It was one of the deer from Santa's sleigh fell and came alive, and there was children, something like that. But Prancer.
Was it like a claymation?
No, it was like a real life one.
A real live action.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I know that one. Okay, I'm just looking at let's see. First celebrity crush.
I don't really have one, but I think if I had to, maybe junior high, I was kind of like obsessed with HOT. Do you remember? How do you not? Oh my gosh, your Korean card is taken away immediately.
Oh no! Oh yeah, I didn't have my Korean card for like the longest time.
Do you not know HOT?
I don't think I know HOT, or maybe I know them by face.
They're the first BTS, so way like decades before BTS. There was HOT.
I might know them like by face, but I was really never a K-pop fan.
My heart.
I know I was never a K-pop fan until BTS.
Baby Box. I loved Baby Box.
That sounds. See, they sound familiar, but I don't.
Oh my God.
No.
Okay.
I mean, and I've listened to some Blackpink, and that's like. I mean, I know. Like my Korean card is like. It's on shaky ground. I understand totally, but okay. Let's see. First major move to another town, state, or country.
Law school. I moved from upstate New York to the San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay.
I was 20 something that I made that major move.
Wow. First paycheck.
That was in high school at a law firm. I was an intern. You bought coffee for everybody. You faxed things and you made photocopies. But yeah, that was my first paycheck.
Okay. And then a first achievement that meant a lot to you.
Maybe holistic tarot, I guess. That's probably not true. Like if I had more time to think about it, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm going to put a caveat there. Like, I feel like if I had more time to think about it, probably something earlier than that. But immediately what comes to mind, honestly, is holistic tarot.
Okay. It's a big achievement. Big book, big achievement. Okay, now on to favorites. A favorite food or snack?
Like all the things. There's everything. I love all foods. Honestly.
Favorite. It doesn't have to be the favorite. It can be a
favorite. Dungeness crab.
Oh, okay. Favorite color?
Blue.
Favorite book?
A favorite book. I like Yellow by Don Lee. It's a collection of short stories. That was the reason for that is not only is it a great book and great writing, but it was the first book that I felt like, oh, I can become a writer too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to explain it, but I didn't see myself as a writer because the only model we had was Amy Tan or Maxine Hong Kingston, which was very different from the style that I was going for at the time, which was literary fiction. Mm-hmm. So Don Lee's Yellow was the first book that made me feel inspired.
Wow. Okay. For a favorite movie or show?
Xena Warrior Princess.
Oh, that's amazing.
Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman.
Dr. Queen
Alias?
Medicine Woman. I remember that with Jane Seymour.
Yes,
Oh
I
my
loved
God.
it.
That's so nostalgic. Wow, I almost forgot about that one. Okay. Let me see here. Favorite animal?
Cats.
Yeah, that's a good one. I approve. Favorite crystal?
Favorite crystal? I guess just the clear quartz crystal. I'm boring. I'm very vanilla.
No, all good. It's a good one. It's one of my favorites too. Favorite curse word?
Well, fuck. Like, if I'm gonna go for a curse word, I'm gonna go all out.
Yeah. A favorite costume you've ever worn?
My favorite costume? Oh, this is so stereotypical. Chung-Li. Like, it's so bad, but like, yeah, I went as Chung-Li, and I felt like I did a really good job going as
Okay.
Chung-Li, and so I was really proud of my cosplay.
Awesome. And then favorite piece of jewelry?
It's a gold Kuan Yin necklace that my great grandmother gave my grandmother, that gave my mother, that gave me on my wedding day.
Oh, wow. That's really nice. And then finally, a favorite gift you received this year?
Uh, oh, um, a balloon. Like, I just
Aw.
really like this balloon. I haven't been gifted balloons in a really long time. And my sister sent me a bouquet of balloons, like with the helium, like, they like flew and stuff.
Mhm.
Really excited that I have balloons.
Awesome.
They're still alive. Like they're still floating right now.
Floating.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very nice. All right, let's check the chat again. It seems like we have more people. Hello, Meg, Rose, Honey, Ritual, K-pop. Here, my whole heart. Army, Bora Hai. Yep. Sarah's saying that BTS converted Julie to K-pop. It is true. It is, yeah, BTS was it. Hi, Rose Honey Ritual. Let's see. Okay, so why don't we just maybe like quickly talk about, I know people are probably here to hear a little bit about Spirit Keepers Tarot, the Revelation edition. And I'm sure maybe a lot of people in the chat already have it or are anticipating it. I know you have a lot of orders to
You're
go.
still getting it. Yeah. Those who are waiting, we're getting to you.
Yes,
Sorry.
yes. Yes, James is sleeping now. He's just resting for a little bit and he will be back back
A little bit.
at work. Yeah.
We don't want any labor code violations, do we?
So the anointing oil,
Mhm.
like amazing. Is it like a secret recipe? Can you share
No.
what that
Yeah,
is?
I handcraft it myself. So there's lemongrass, there's 2 types of cassia,
Uh-huh.
cassia cinnamon and Ceylon cinnamon. So 2 types of cinnamon, lemongrass, and myrrh resin.
Wow.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
make it myself. All of it is made by myself from scratch. So it's actually not an essential oil. It's
Okay.
called an infusion oil because essential oil is really, really like potent. Or, I mean, there's a whole, like, people who know what they're talking about will explain the difference. So technically, I can't call it an essential oil. It's more of a, it's an anointing oil, but it's more
Anointing
of
oil.
an infusion. It's more of an infusion oil. The process
Okay.
is infusion.
And so I know nothing about creating oils and such. Is it something where you blend it together and you have to let it kind of sit and marinate, or like how does that work exactly?
Yeah, I marinate it for, well, marinate. Like, basically, I let it infuse for about 3 months, 3 full moon cycles. And
Mm.
so it takes a really long
I
time,
was
but then
gonna
that's
say.
where the strength of it comes from. So essential oil is you take a whole bunch of the herb or resin and you
Mhm.
reduce it down to just like a couple of droplets or something like that. And then infusion, there's still a whole buttload of the original material that's used, but you heat it at a particular, not too high, not too low temperature, and that draws out all of the, the scent from it into the oil.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, it is amazing.
Thank you.
It smells really good. So the oil infused card accompanying it, yes, really wonderful. Yes. And Jonathan was saying he couldn't stop. He couldn't stop smelling. I
So
was
good.
like, I could roll in this. I could bathe myself in this. Okay. And Lily Declar is asking, wasn't the recipe in the first book of maps?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
maybe.
in the first book of maps. I also have a whole video tutorial on how to make it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So then I'm gonna ask, when you began working on the revelation, was this something that you kind of had in mind previously, or was it kind of like with the first one where you felt like, this just kind of came to you and it's something that you felt like you had to do? Because I remember you saying that, this was during the time of COVID, so you had more time, and, you wanted to also learn a new, I don't know, what is that, I forget what,
Just digital painting, like
the digital painting, right?
learning how to art.
Yeah. So was it something where you kind of had in the back of your mind that you wanted to do another edition, or was it more just kind of a spontaneous, you know, COVID and, oh, like maybe I don't want to work on my manuscript right now. I'm sick of looking at it, so I'm going to work on something else. And because that's me. That's what I do.
Being attacked right now. Oh my gosh, you're trolling me.
I just see you. I just see you is all. So,
okay, so after I published the black and white first edition, I had fantasies of having a full color SKT, but I didn't have the technical skill to create one. I couldn't do it. It was literally impossible. So I would fantasize about a full color version, but I was like, I don't have the ability to do that. And then because COVID happened and I was furloughed, I had a buttload of time on my hands. And so I was like, well, I'm going to get one of those digital pad things and the little digital pen and just teach myself how to do this. So, I signed up for online courses. I watched YouTube, all the art channels, and I just taught myself how to art. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I applied the technical skill and decided to redo the SKT. But then as you see, a lot of the cards also changed dramatically. And that's because in the process, I feel like I really elevated my ability to draw as well. So since my sketching, the basic foundation of sketching improved, I went back and changed a lot of the cards.
Gotcha. Hi, everyone. Hi, Hackstone. Hi, Wendy, Yoko Compass, mom of 2 boys. Okay, so, sorry, I'm just trying to, okay, so awesome, very cool. And now your mother was saying that for the first one, I believe her reaction was, there's no color. And then the second, for the Vitruvian, it was,
still no color.
Not a color. Sepia is not a color. So did you show her the 3rd edition? And if so, what has her reaction been to the Revelation edition?
She has seen digital, I've sent her over text message photos of the deck, certain cards while I was working on it over 2020, but she hasn't seen the full deck produced. I actually I haven't even sent it to her yet. I packaged it and I just sent it out to my mom this Saturday.
Oh, really?
So, because other pre-orders came first.
Oh, so, yeah, no.
There you go, flattery,
See, there you go, peeps.
People who paid for it got it. Yes. Mom didn't pay.
Priorities, that's true. That's true. She can wait a little bit. No, she's guaranteed a copy, right? So she knows where to find you, exactly. Right, if she doesn't get her copy. So you'll have to keep us updated on
I will
about that, because I'm very curious to hear her reaction. But it just felt very I don't know. Mom. It's like my mother would probably react the same way too. Lovingly, of course, lovingly. Right. But okay. So were there any particular cards that you feel you had a hard time conceptualizing and creating? I mean, I remember seeing, because you were very candid in sharing the progress of your deck online on your Instas for all of us to see. And so I do remember, sometimes you'd be like A or B, or, got to do this over again. I don't like this. And so you've gone through a few iterations of things. Do any particular images pop out to you?
A lot of cards I struggled with. I felt like this one was more in terms of how I approached it, not the actual product, but how I approached it. This one was a little bit more analytical, more researched, whereas the first edition felt more channeled and more organic, right? But then the result, I feel like people think the first edition is a little bit more analytical, whereas this one is a little more intuitive. So the intent, with the input versus the output, is really different and occupy polarities. So I think that's interesting. But I think a card that I struggled with was the 5 of Swords. I did many different iterations of that one because I couldn't get the composition to look right. The devil card, the demon, was another card that I struggled with the composition to try to make it look right, because I wanted a badass demon card like the devil, but at the same time, it's really hard, right? Like, because it is kind of that mythical beast looking creature if you're going for that Baphomet vibe. And they always look cartoony. So it was really hard.
Gotcha. And any cards that you felt came very fluidly and that you would call some of your favorites of the deck?
So again, cliche. Like, I guess the Asian ones came pretty easily, right? Like the Buddhist ones that were rooted in Mahayana Buddhism, I felt like were really easy for me to do. I didn't not a lot of research required, So those were very easy, and they felt organic in terms of where they were actually placed in the tarot architecture.
Gotcha. And how much influence did James have over, like, would you show him every single illustration for his input? And how much influence did he have over that kind of final product, that final iteration of the image?
He had more technical influence, right?
Oh,
so I really listened to his opinion, because he doesn't have an art background, but he can say things like, oh, that doesn't look proportional, or that person's hand looks weird, or that person's face looks busted. He'll say things like that. I'll be like, and then of course, you kind of go back and you mope, and you're like, well, it's artistic style. Like, you sit down and you think critically, and you're like, yeah, okay, I can probably do better. And so then you go back and you fix it.
I remember you posting about I think it was the Temperance card, where he had some opinions about like the hand gestures, and like that they were
gestures. A lot of things he didn't like. So he didn't like the hand gestures. He still does not like the two-faced version, the rebus of the Temperance card that I did. And he's like, why? It's creepy looking. You're calling it the angel. It should be the most beautiful card in your deck, and it ends up being the creepiest. And I'm like, I like it. It's so some things I listened to him when it made sense, and other things I knew deep down was creative license, then I didn't listen to him.
Gotcha. So I have a question from Jonathan. Did Bell include Taoism in the deck?
Yes, absolutely. So for example, the trigrams, the I Ching hexagrams, that's very much in the deck. I think it's more in the background, the spirit of it. So, and you can argue, is it Taoism or is it Hermeticism, right? Like, it's interesting where there's a lot of intersections between the two. And so it's a little bit of both Hermetic philosophy and Taoist philosophy.
Gotcha. Okay. So Tammy's saying, James is so awesome. Give him a big hug. He is awesome. He is awesome. Resting Peacefully. Hi, Amy Strength Reversed. Hello. Hello, everyone coming in. Okay, so do you think that you were saying that you wanted a colored iteration of the deck? Do you feel like this is kind of the final, like you have your trilogy now, or do you? Okay, so
this is done. Like, I think the SKT universe is done. I did call this a print run. So first and second editions, they were closed editions, meaning there's no more. I'm not making any more black and white. I'm not making any more Vitruvian. And so a print run, all the artwork will be substantially the same. So essentially, if you've already purchased it, you don't technically need to buy another, because it's not a different edition. It's a different print run. I'm literally just copying and reprinting it.
Gotcha.
There might be little changes, like maybe a card back difference, right? Because that happens. You might change the card back, change the box, things like that, but no major changes from here on out. If I do another deck project, I really want to go in a totally different direction. So in terms of editions or iterations of the Spirit Keepers Tarot, yeah, it's done. The trilogy is done.
Okay, so the first two were closed print runs, but this one would be like an ongoing print run, or if you were to tweak something, you would announce that, it'd be available.
I wouldn't make any big changes.
Gotcha.
So for example, between the first edition and Vitruvian, even though it's the color change, I also changed a lot of the cards. Like, I changed all the night cards. There are a lot of major differences. With this one, I won't do that.
Okay, gotcha. So then we will see future decks from you, just not in the vein of SKT.
Yeah, I've been really interested in looking at some of the like reconstructions of historical decks. So like modernizing it or doing something to it that made it more me. So adding my own interpretation to historically reconstructed decks. That's what I'm looking at right now.
Gotcha. And do you foresee continuing to self-publish these decks, or maybe doing it through traditional publishing?
As long as James and I are physically in the condition to do what we're doing right now, I think we're going to do it self-published. And the only time I would then pass it on to a traditional publisher is if we just physically were like, nah, we're not doing this anymore, you know. So that's when I would pass it on.
Okay. And your reasons for preferring the self-publishing is that you have complete control. Was that the main thing for you, that you just wanted complete control? You wanted to have a handle on every step of that process?
Yeah, with the Spirit Keeper's Tarot, because it was so personal, you know, I really wanted to be able to to create the feeling of from the hands of the artisan directly into your hands. And so when you received it, I wanted you to feel like this came from the artisan herself, you know, and this is something I wanted that kind of an old school type of feel. And you really can't do that if you go with a traditional publisher, or even if you use a distributor. So I didn't even use a distributor.
Yeah, right. Gotcha. Yes. And we all appreciate it. I mean, we know some of the obstacles, like with the shipping, and you're trying to like locate your freight of decks, and they were stranded somewhere, and then you had some dude bro who was like misinforming you about where things were. And
yeah, the dude bro was awesome. Maybe I should speak to your husband. He and I can work this out, since apparently you're too hysterical.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So, well, luckily it all ended well, and I'm really loving it, and other people are really loving it as well. Revelation is my deck to path work through the rest of the year, completely enjoying it.
Very
awesome. Awesome. Okay, so if you had to choose one of your babies, which one would you choose?
Oh, so this is the funny thing. I guess I would choose the Vitruvian, because I feel like it doesn't get as much love as the first edition and the new Revelation. So it's kind of
okay.
momish. You know how moms always do that? They give more, no, they do. They give more attention to the child not the problem child, but like they always give more attention to the one that seems that they can kind of intuit is more neglected. So I kind of have that feeling as well.
Okay, so Vitruvian. All right, very interesting. All right, so let me see if there are any other questions. If you have any questions for Benebell, do let us know.
Oh no, the choose your baby question. Exactly. Like, what the hell, man?
I know. I'm a bitch. What can I say? But Benebell can handle it. She can handle it. See, it was fine.
I think all my friends are bitches. Like, it's a requirement, you know.
Yeah.
It's kind of bitchy to be my friend.
All right. Hello, everyone else. I don't know if I've missed anyone. Hi, Jason. Let's see here. Okay. So, I don't know. What else do you want to talk about here? We could talk about decks, deck collecting. You wanna, or we could talk about writing. We could do
writing, because we're both not writing.
Yeah, we're both not writing. So FYI, in case anyone doesn't know, Benebell is she does have a manuscript. What's that?
I said was.
So,
anyway, go on. Yeah.
No, yeah. So she's in the process. We're both trying to be in the process of revising our respective manuscripts, and they are both. Yours would be young adult, right? Young adult or new adult?
Yeah, it's young adult.
Young adult, like historical, martial arts. You said kind of martial arts, urban fantasy fiction, and mine is more of like a
fantasy.
It's a fantasy,
fairy tale
retelling, maybe like a romantic fantasy. I don't know.
Romance, yeah. Fantasy romance, yeah.
For what age? I don't freaking know. This is the problem. This is, and it's interesting that it's yeah, like it just coming back with fresh eyes. You and I were talking about just coming back after taking a break for so long, coming back to your own writing with fresh eyes. It's like, because I had in mind how much work I anticipated I would have to do for revisions, and then coming back and seeing how much more work I actually have to do makes me want to crawl into fetal position. So where are you with that? Where are you with your manuscript?
I was like, oh, because remember you and I was like, oh, I mean, my manuscript is done, right? I had already started the submission process. So
Yes.
it's done. But then I was like, and then we, you know, like you and I talked about, I made some major structural changes, right? And genre change as well. And so of course, when you go back and look at it with fresh eyes, you just think, wow, this is really not just a delete, cut and paste job. This is like, I have to rewrite the goddamn thing.
Yes.
So we're in the same exact boat. Like we're both overwhelmed with how much work it's going to take.
Yes, exactly. So what do you feel like you have kind of in your mind, I don't know, like a schedule for what you would like to complete by when, and some goals for like the upcoming year in terms of the manuscript?
I really want to get back into it like full throttle in 2022. This year, I think I carried it around. Like I literally physically carried it around on like on one of those flash drives everywhere I went, to work, at home, but I never worked on it. And so just, you know what I mean? Like you just carry it around hoping you'll find some time to work on it. But I haven't, because every time I open up the manuscript and I start reading the first chapter, I'm like, oh, it's so crappy. That's so terrible. And I'm just like overwhelmed and disappointed before I even start. So
it's hard. Yeah. I mean, I was thinking this now, well, at least you're a few steps ahead of me. At least you were carrying it around and trying to look at it. I was like, I do not want to look at you. I don't want to. I want to do other things. And yeah, so, but it does feel like kind of like a weight, you know, like this unfinished weight on your back.
God, yeah.
You know, and I know like you had given me a previous suggestion of, well, what if you just, you know, put it in a drawer, you know, like just put it away for the time being and come back to it later, you know, work on something else. And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, right. No, that's just not how my brain works, unfortunately. I almost feel like even if I tried to work on something new, that would always be like niggling me in the back of my mind, like you had this other one that you had intentions for, and you just abandoned it, which I know plenty of authors have done and then have gone back and then published. But yeah.
Well, I put it away in a drawer for the duration of the SKT revelation.
So yes, you did.
Technically, yes, I am not a hypocrite. I did take my own advice.
That's true. And I guess I kind of did too, because I truly just avoided it for for like the longest time, really the longest time. So let's see. Jameson Wolf says, I love the SKT3 so much. Also, I've been a professional writer for 16 years now. Oh, wow. And think everything I write is crap while I'm working on it. I think that's par for the course, really. I feel like, at least for me, I never think, oh my God, this is completely amazing. It's always that kind of self-doubt and just, self-doubt, imposter syndrome. At least, you know, I'm speaking for myself, that it is a hard thing. So, all right. So then with the intentions of doing your manuscript in 2022, is that going to be the main thing you're focusing on, kind of creative wise? Like you're not doing other decks, or you're not, you know, it's going to be solely the manuscript?
You know, I said that about 2021. You know, in 2020, I said 2021 will be the year I, you know, finish my novel and revise it, and it'll be perfect by the end of 2021. And I didn't even touch it. Like I ended up not even touching like a word of it. So I don't know. I really can't say anything because I'll just change my mind in a couple months.
Gotcha. No, it's
yeah. So as of this recording, yes, my plan is the manuscript in 2022. But, you know, don't rely on that because I'm unreliable.
Yeah, as am I. And so that's why I, you know, have an account, like a true accountability buddy that will hopefully, you know, that I don't know well, that I've like, you know, I'm paying this person to literally kick my ass.
Right.
I mean, well, maybe not kick my ass, but, you know, just like keep me accountable. Hopefully we'll see how this goes, and I might still end up blowing them off, which will be a problem, but I'm hoping I can be better than that. Right. It's just a very painful process for me. Like, and it's funny because you would think, like, as an aspiring writer, like, writing is what we love and everything. So it's such an interesting relationship that, like, I can hate writing as much as I love it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like I love it and I hate it at the same time. So
I
I
think
just
it's because we hate what we produce in the moment. Like,
Mhm.
I hate witnessing junk, right? Like, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know how else to put it, but like, I don't like the witnessing process of seeing junk on the page and like,
Yeah.
wow, I wrote this. This is terrible. That I don't like. So
That's true. Very, very true. Let's see. Doesn't Philip Pullman stress that writers shouldn't judge their writing because it's all valuable or something vaguely like that? It's true. That's a good piece of advice. That's true. Yeah. We should be easier on ourselves. It's just hard, I think,
you
hard not
haven't
to
read
be.
my manuscript is what I have to say to that. There's a real junk in there.
And so your tentative plan is that you will eventually pitch to agents and do the usual kind of traditional publishing round, because I know that indie publishing has taken off and evolved so much over the years. It's nothing like when I remember it first coming to the scene and like this kind of, I guess, maybe like stigma around it, or and now it's just a completely different ballgame
Yeah,
when it comes to
that's changed a lot.
indie. Yeah. So would this be something where it could be a possibility for you that you might independently publish some fictional works?
Yeah, I wouldn't rule that out. I think I'm still going to try the traditional sub process. I remember when the first round of it, I did get some really like exciting, callbacks, and so I was like, oh, there's a chance that it could go somewhere. It's just that after they requested the full manuscript, they said no, right? So,
Yeah.
but then the fact that you even got full manuscript requests from
Yes.
some top agents, it really
Yeah.
kind of makes you feel a little too hopeful, maybe, right?
No, but I think that's a great sign, because oftentimes it's crickets. They don't even ask for the full manuscript, right? And so it's hard pitching to agents. And then it's even kind of less common of a thing that companies will take an unsolicited manuscript, without that representation.
Right.
So whereas before, I think that was a little more common, but not
Mhm.
nowadays. So all right, I just want to take a look at the chat to see if there are any other questions. All right. No, I don't think so. So what have you been reading anything to kind of inspire you to kick back into your own writing, or
Not
just
really.
anything you like to read in general?
Recently, it's actually been, if it's not law related to research I have to do for the day job, it was actually texts to research the artwork for the Spirit Keeper Serial Revelation. So I
Gotcha.
haven't had any chance to really sit in and read fiction yet. I
Yeah.
hope to do that in coming winter. So
Come
hopefully the
winter.
winter break will be sometime I can get back into novel reading.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Zach. Tiger's Abyss. When is that astrology book coming out? Benebell.
I know.
Astrology book?
Encyclopedia. It's so big. It's 750,000 words because I really get into it starts with Babylonian astrology, and I go through the history of it and the evolution into Hellenistic astrology and then what we see today. And I also want to talk about all the different systems like whole signs, Placidus, and so equal houses. And I don't know when it's coming out. I mean, it's a lot. It's more or less done. Like it's more or less done. It's just that it needs to kind of be refined and fine tuned into something that's halfway readable. So hopefully in the next 10 years at some point it'll come out.
Gotcha. Okay. We'll have that to look forward to. Astrology is still over my head right now, but maybe one day. So let's see. Heather is asking, what's on your TBR for the winter, Benebell?
I don't even have any on my like to be read. Yeah, I'm taking suggestions. I have no idea because I used to be really snooty about genre fiction versus literary fiction,
Oh,
and I
yeah?
only read literary fiction.
Oh,
And
interesting.
it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I started getting more into YA and reading genre fiction. So I'm still kind of at that point where that cusp, where I'm like, oh, I have weird feelings around, genre fiction, but then I have to read more genre fiction if I'm writing genre fiction.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I went to school for literary fiction, and it's kind of, it's instilled in you that that's the way to go, right? And everything else is ultimately, not as high caliber or whatever. And it actually, I mean, I realized, I'm like, but wait a minute, I don't think I enjoy writing literary fiction. That's what I went to school for. And I love reading it. Don't get me wrong. I really love reading it. I love reading all sorts of, genres. But when it came to just writing, I wanted to write something more, commercialized, genre-based, fun, as opposed to literary fiction. So
I have a full literary fiction manuscript done. It's an Asian American literature from when I was in my early 20s. And this is a really crazy story. So I finished the novel. And what it was I grew up in upstate New York. And the novel, 100% fiction, right, was 4 young girls that grow up together, but they're all, they experience ostracization, they're marginalized in different ways, they experience, all of that stuff. It's Asian American literature, literary fiction. And then at one point in high school, they decide to bomb their school. Like it's like a whole high school, like it's very controversial. Like right. And so that they decide to, they use their intelligence and their smarts to create bombs. And it's the whole thing, right? And then what happens is it's actually a memoir because it's about, I wanted it to be the adult version of one of the kids writing from prison about her. It's like writing from, in retrospect, reflecting on what she did as a kid from prison. And so, and then it happened in upstate New York in Binghamton, that I set it in Binghamton. And then around that same time, there was actually a shooting by Asian Americans in Binghamton.
Oh.
And then I stopped working on my novel. And then another thing, so the group, it began as, in 6th grade, they formed their own little club based on, and they created a club name based on the first letter of each of their names, right? And so the name of the club was ISIS.
Oh my goodness.
This is tone deaf. This is
or just like, wow. I mean,
so I put that away.
That's crazy.
That's not going anywhere. That's a dead novel.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that's great. Let's see here. So any book, so Jessica is recommending any book by Sarah Gailey. I don't think I know that author. And then let's see, Jamie Benebell. I totally read that book. It sounds interesting. I mean, right? If it's going to catch it, that would catch attention. If any premise of a novel would catch attention, I would think that one would be it. Let's see. Would Benebell please suggest another tarot or oracle deck to pair with her new deck? Ooh, that's a great question, Pamela.
I don't know. I think I would go for an oracle deck that feels a little bit more simplistic because I like polarity. I like the balance, right? So if a deck that you're working with is really, really busy, then I would find a deck that's a little bit more, not simple, that's the wrong word, but more minimalist maybe, something that feels like it's a polarity to what you're working with. So if you were working with a very minimalist deck, then I would like to use one of those really crazy, ornate, busy oracle decks to balance with the tarot that I'm using. So off the top of my head, I can't think of which ones, I can't remember the names, because I think I go through too many deck reviews that all the names blur together. I can see the deck in my head, but I can't remember the name of it.
Okay. So then you yourself haven't really used SKT along with an oracle within your own personal? Okay.
Yeah, I've been kind of, so for example, the black and white, the first edition I would use with, for example, Angels and Ancestors by, is it Kyle?
Gray?
Yeah, so I used that one. I thought that was a really nice balance. There were a couple of others I used with the black and white. I used with a lot of color, full color, really, grand decks, oracle and tarot.
Okay.
Vitruvian, I tended to work with it by itself, or I use the I Ching predominantly. Or I still use it, I would kind of consult or cross-reference with ephemeris tables to do a lot of astrology readings with the Vitruvian. And then the SKT Revelation, I've kind of just used it by itself.
Okay, gotcha. So, Belle, you can't go wrong with Guy Gabriel Clay. I don't know any of these writers.
I know, I feel so old. Yeah.
Me too. Me too. Okay, let's see here. Elizabeth. Oh, thank you. Let's see. Belle, do you ever find it hard to separate the writing style you need for your day job from your other writing? That's a great question. I sometimes feel like practicing law killed my ability to do any other kind of writing.
Yeah, I think you saw that actually in Holistic Tarot. And so, for example, the very first version of Holistic Tarot, all the citations, the endnotes at the end of that book were in Blue Book. So Blue Book is the citation format that lawyers use, the Blue Book citation method. And then I think they changed it to APA because of the subject matter. So then we had to change it to APA, or was it MLA? One of those two. No, I think it was APA. That they changed the citation format. So it kind of shows where I was. You still see it a little bit in the Tao of Craft, but then the Tao of Craft, I did the APA citation format myself. And so I'm still kind of, it's really hard to get out of that IRAC analytical method of writing when you do have to practice law full time.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like your writing has, like, even in the scope of SKT, the book of maps, do you feel like your writing has evolved in specific ways for you from, like, the first edition to the Revelation edition?
I feel
I have not read all of this book of maps yet, so I intend to, but
I think I feel freer to write what's actually on my mind or my actual thoughts. And so I feel like earlier I was more guarded. I'd be very thoughtful about turn of phrasing, how I was wording things, or being very careful to separate my personal opinion or personal beliefs from what I was putting on the page. So I did that very much so in Holistic Tarot, for example. And then in the Tao of Craft, I was constantly filtering everything that I wrote through what is my personal folk belief and what can I verify with some older historical text. And so it was very analytical in that sense. And so now I think with the Book of Maps and the writing that I do now feels a lot more liberated.
Awesome. Very cool. Sarah's saying, I love that. Mia is saying, your art is incredibly beautiful. It is, like, the colors of the SKT. I mean, oh my goodness. And you were even saying how originally you were wanting it to be maybe more saturated than how it turned out in print. Is that what you?
I would say a couple, 1 or 2 degrees. When I was going back to the original samples, the samples that I approved versus what you see, it's like 1 or 2 degrees, not even. So it was a very minor difference. But I was so nitpicky and I was such a perfectionist that I could see, like, this is different. Like, it's not the same. Like technically you couldn't have actually complained to the manufacturer about it because it was close enough in saturation. Minor little difference.
Gotcha. I mean, it looks really crisp and beautiful to me, and I have bad eyes, so it's amazing. I love the color scheme that you chose for that. See, Elizabeth is saying, I really appreciate Benebell's style of writing and have only recently discovered you in my path. Any advice for me getting this new deck as my first of yours?
Are you a total tarot beginner? I see, the thing is, I still recommend of people that if you're a total tarot beginner and you actually want to learn the tarot, like you want to master the tarot, beginning with a deck that's so off script, like the Spirit Keeper's Tarot, might be more confusing than clarifying. Because then if you want to return to like the Marseille or the Thoth or the Rider-Waite-Smith, it's going to be really hard to go backwards. But if you start with one of those clear-cut, orthodox paths, and then you decide to go off the path to an unorthodox deck, that's much easier than the other way around. So that's why I feel like starting with something that has more rigid lines is easier, only because then you can understand everything else that you're doing. So if you start with Spirit Keeper's Tarot, because I made so many changes, even the way the deck is ordered, if you don't have a strong foundation in tarot, it's going to be more confusing, I think.
Gotcha.
So if you get it for the art, like, a lot of people I know who aren't into tarot got it for a coffee table prop. And that's totally okay. You just put it out on your coffee table for people to look at. I'm fine with that.
Okay, so yeah, Elizabeth is not a newbie.
Okay.
Just SKT. So then do you have any different advice in that vein?
Yeah, I would just start start small, baby steps, right? And I do this with any new deck, especially if it goes with its own system. For example, James Wanless's Voyager Tarot, the Evolutionary Tarot, the Tarot Volatile that recently came out. So a lot of these decks, what I'll do is I'll just do one card draws. And if it comes with a companion guidebook, I always look up the card meaning. And the reason you do that is because you start to hear the creator's voice. And I think that really, for me, it adds another layer of appreciation when I can hear the voice of the creator in how they interpret the card meanings themselves. And then, of course, you do eventually pick up your own meaning for each card. You read the cards very differently from the original author at some future point. But to begin there is always pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
So one card draws and look it up in the little white book, look it up in the book of maps.
That's actually what I've been doing every day. Like I've just been every day, just one card, instead of, reading like from beginning to end the book of maps or trying to go in order. I've just been pulling one card, reading both the little white book and the book of maps, and then just taking a few notes and journaling a little bit. And then that's it, just kind of, and then hopefully building from there. So, and that's been working really well. So awesome. Okay. Let's see. Thank you for the advice, says Elizabeth. All right. Let's see. Another advice I would say, utilize all of the book of maps when it comes to SKT. Read it all.
Aw, thank you.
It is a wealth of information for sure. And it says, Lily says, using the study guide is a good start too. That's correct. Yeah. Very good point. All right. So while we wait for more questions, anything else you want to say about fiction writing or your manuscript or?
Well, I hope you and I stay in touch. We can secondary accountability buddies.
Yes, absolutely.
All the accountability buddies we can get.
Yeah. Absolutely, definitely. I will be checking in on you, and I hope you check in on me, and we can beta read and do all the things. I actually printed out the comments you gave from the last beta read for my manuscript, and was just like reading over it, and it's like, yes, like such good advice. And then on top of that, I had just finished a virtual, like a self-paced seminar from Maggie Stiefvater. She was doing like a writing seminar, and there were so many good nuggets there that between the two, coming back and looking at it with fresh eyes, I was like, I wanted to cry a little bit. It's like, oh my God, I have so much to do, but it's fine.
Okay, no, you guys, Julie is a really good writer. Like her prose is on point.
Oh, thank you.
Really good writer.
Very nice of you. Thank you. Well, we'll see if I've kept my touch or not. I'm not sure. So 2022.
You can totally traditionally publish it. I just feel like it has that, how it has that aura. You can kind of tell traditionally published versus indie. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like there's something to the way you write. There's a, not traditionalist, but yeah, maybe, you know what I mean? Like you can tell you have that MFA degree. Like you really can feel, whatever. I don't remember, was it master's or MFA?
Well, it was master's.
I remember it was a whole story.
Yeah, and then since then they changed it to an MFA. So I'm not salty about that at all.
Technically, you have an MFA. It was just called something else at a different period of time. Okay, fine. I'll just say you have an MFA. Yeah, you have that pedigree, though, for sure.
Oh, thank you. That's really kind of you. It's really kind. Yeah, so we will definitely keep each other on track. So sounds good. Sounds like a plan. So let me see. I'm just still checking. Hi, Dana. Dana says, it's so fun to watch the two of you chatting. Oh, thank you. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. This is like the biggest crowd I've ever had. Benebell brings in the crew. So hopefully I'm juggling everything okay. But if I've missed your comment, please let me know. Please tag me or all caps or, just get my attention. So, all right, well, let's switch gears here. What else can we talk about? Like, decks. Let's talk about decks some more. What other than your own, are there any other decks that you've been currently in love with, currently using?
Oh, so the Tarot Volatile, which I mentioned already, I'm really liking the Relative Tarot. I think it's by Professor Barnstone, and Alexandra Eldridge is the creator, the artist. That's another deck that I really like right now. Those two are the ones I've been working on.
Okay.
and they're volatile. Yeah.
Okay. And then any that you're anticipating, or is that something that you don't really keep track of because you're constantly inundated with decks anyway that you get for review or whatnot? So it's not like you ever really maybe need to.
Wandering Star by Kat Pierce, I also really like.
Yeah, that's really pretty, really pretty. So, but in terms of any other new anticipating what? Do you have the Wandering Star? Okay, but any ones that you don't have that you're anticipating, or you really they just come to you, so it doesn't really.
Yeah, so at this point, it's been really hard to keep track of what's on the horizon. So I actually, when they come, like when I open the box and I see the cards, like sometimes I don't know what was published and what is going to be published, like the past tense versus future tense. I don't always have a clear timeline of. So, but yeah, I just kind of, whenever I open the box of decks, that's what I entered. Like that's what I see. Oh, this is what's on the horizon.
Gotcha. All right. Lily's asking, what's the next thing we'll see from Benebell?
Well, hopefully a novel. I mean, like at the rate I've been going, who knows? I've been really interested because I feel like I've learned so much about art. You know, like I feel like it'd be a waste if I didn't create something else artsy fartsy. And so I want to do a Tarot de Montaña or an Atea deck. And the Atea deck, because the numbering is totally different. Like if you look at the one by, I think it was Julio Orsini, it's a very different numbering system from what we think we know about the tarot numbering, the key numbers. And so I wanted to work on that. I think that'll be interesting. And then looking, because I know enough French to do translation. So between the French that I know, plus an English-French dictionary, which are all online these days, and plus Google Translate. So with those three together, I can kind of cobble together translations of French. And so I do want to do a recreation of an Atea deck.
Wow. Very nice. Just maybe I think a month ago, on Three Girls, One Deck, the series that I have.
I watched Paul Houston's deck, right?
Yeah, the Paul Houston. That's like the only familiarity I have with Atea. And so I at some point do want to kind of dip into that a little bit more because just from that one deck, I liked it. Now I know that's more of a hybrid than like straight on Atea, but just the taste I got, I found it really interesting. And I actually enjoyed it. So let me see. Let's see. I think I caught all of the questions. Benebell, I really enjoyed your daily routine videos during the lockdown. I was inspired how you keep your day moving forward and productive. Yes.
Yeah, I did try to keep pretty productive. And I think it's because it was really interesting. In the beginning, the silence was deafening. The non-action was very harrowing for me because it's a very different experience for me to not be out and about, to be running around. So usually I run around like a headless chicken from like sun up to sundown. And then to have that all taken away from you and to just be in one spot. Like it was actually the first year in 20 years that James and I noticed that we never even left the country.
Yeah.
So every single year of my life for the past at least 2 decades, I've left the country at least once every single year, sometimes twice a year.
Yeah.
So for a whole year, now going on 2, because I still haven't left the country yet. So going on 2 years, kind of being in one place, you have to find other ways to occupy your mind. So
yes, absolutely.
That was a really interesting challenge.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yes, Atea. I know Wendy likes Atea. And then, oh yes, Regina. Sorry, Regina. Regina had a really good question earlier. How do you find the process of switching genres? Is it like learning new or different skill sets for you?
You mean from literary fiction to YA fantasy?
Or yeah. Or maybe even the informational, the kind of occult, like holistic tarot and to then fiction, or any combination.
Be hard. So for example, I don't treat writing YA fantasy any different from writing literary fiction. And if we really want to get into like a rant about it, I don't think there's a difference. And I don't think it should be treated differently. I think the reason YA fantasy has this stigma on it, it's because it's considered lowbrow topics. You know, as soon as you write fantasy, if you're in an MFA workshop, everybody rolls their eyes because it's not taken seriously. But if you sit down and you remove that bias and you look at the writing's the quality is the same. Because I've read some really shitty literary fiction. So,
yes, absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. It's like,
So
is there a plot here? Is there a plot? I mean, something gonna happen?
so like I don't think there's a difference in terms of nonfiction versus fiction. No, I don't think I struggled too much with switching gears. I don't know why.
Okay, great. Let's see here. There is yet to be an English translation of Atea's book on tarot.
Ah,
And okay.
that's what I plan on doing. So I've already downloaded the texts in French, and that's part of like if I were to create a Taya deck, of course it has to have a companion guidebook. So then the companion guidebook would be, loose translations or iterations of the Orsini text from I think it's 18 something. But yeah, I would definitely want to do an English translation of the Ateya book.
Gotcha. Let me see here. Hi, Evie. Fairy Wen whispers. Let's see here. Another question. How did both of you come up with the ideas for your books? What inspired your stories? You go first, Benebell.
So mine is based on it's like a creative, fantastical reinterpretation of the origins of tarot. And so I had to do a lot of research into the 12th, 13th, and 14th centuries of the Yuan dynasty, the Mamluk Empire, the Holy Lands, the Levant, and also the Franks, so European history around that period. And I kind of like a puzzle piece, looked at the different pieces of the puzzles and how do they all fit together. Marco Polo, there's all of these aspects that all happened around these 2-3 centuries. And then you do a timeline of the world as we knew it at that time. And then from that, I fabricated a story of the origins of tarot. And then, of course, gave characters and how, like, which characters transported what from what region to what region along the Silk Road and how it all happened. So
it was epic. It was.
It was probably a bit off more than I could do, though. It was just like way too much going on.
Let's see here. Oh, well, in terms of mine, I guess the short story is that I had read, I am a lover of all fairy tales, and I was reading a grim tale called Goose Girl, and I thought it was shit. And I was like, I wonder if I could like rewrite it to, to be a rendition that I would enjoy. And so it started from there. And I tried National Novel Writing Month, and that was a complete fail because I tried to be a pantser instead of a plotter. So any writers out there, like, pantsing just means you're flying by the seat of your pants and just writing without any kind of structure or outline or whatever, whereas a plotter is more organized with, has a plan, has an outline, knows where the novel's going. So I was trying to pants it, and it failed. And then I picked it back up a few years later to retry, and actually plotted out an outline and everything. And it actually then, as I was writing it, turned into something just way pretty divergent from the original fairy tale. You might see little hints, but it just became its own thing almost. I don't know. Anyway, so that is.
You stuck to the spirit of the fairy tale, because I had never heard of the fairy tale before reading your novel. And then so I read the fairy tale, and then I read your manuscript. I felt like you really captured the spirit of it, but I preferred yours over the original.
Oh, well, thank you.
I understood what you meant by it's shit. I get it.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to say, you thought it was shit too, right? Like, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense.
No. It didn't make any sense.
All right. So returning to Elizabeth's earlier question, also an artist here. I love your style and detail. Incredible. I keep finding new things. I love the duplication of certain images. Was that purposeful?
Yeah.
I mean, okay.
Absolutely. Look at the numerology and look at the astrological references to when certain symbolism or even depictions repeat in the deck.
Awesome. Very cool. Okay, I think we're caught up on questions. Thanks, Sarah. Thank you for keeping me on track. Yeah, I'm not used to having this many people in the chat. I'm like, oh my God. So popular, Benebell, so popular. Have either of you read Circe? It is on my shelf.
I've heard so much about Circe. Like people either love it or hate it. Like
It
there's
is on my shelf. Yeah.
I plan on getting it just because it has garnered so many like extreme emotions. Anything that has people loving it or hating it is a good book. Like if you have people hating you, you're doing something right. And so I really want to read Circe. Like, why are people hating on it so much?
I didn't hear people were hating on it. I just heard that it was amazing.
Have you been watching BookTube? Oh my God, a lot of
No, I don't watch BookTube.
Oh.
Because I feel bad about myself when I watch BookTube. I feel bad about all the books I have not read, you know, all the authors I don't know. And it's like, oh, okay, I haven't even finished a book this month. And meanwhile, the booktuber's like, I have finished 20 books this month. And here are my favorites. It's like, okay, never mind. No, thank you. But okay, well, so then you're in the know because booktubers, I guess, have been talking about how much they don't like it.
This is older though. It's like
old,
old news.
Yeah, I guess it is. See,
years old, right?
Yeah. See, this is how like not on the pulse I am when it comes to books. But yes, I do have that. I have purchased it. It is on my shelf to be read. I will read it. So
you know what I tend to watch in book. This is so bad. I'm such a gossiper. I love watching book tea, like booktube tea, like booktube drama.
Yeah.
Fun. I'm like, it makes me not feel so bad about the true community. I'm like, dude, we're not the only people without our shit together. So like,
yeah.
It's all messed up. So I feel so much better.
Well, and I feel like, you know, the drama that happens here is so kind of small scale to like what you see in other, you know, other communities like makeup
and
holy
beauty.
crap.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't even really follow a lot of or any, I guess, makeup YouTubers.
I don't know.
I found like I was like just pulled into some of the drama going on there, and then like mukbang, there's like mukbang drama, and just it's insane. It's insane. So in any case, yeah, all right, let me see. Not sure if you saw my comment about author Charles DeLint. His book Force of the Heart is fantastic. Okay. I'm going to have to come back after this live and write all these down because I have not read that either.
My winter vacation TBR.
Yes. Makeup drama, hi Dan. How? Good grief. Oh, you'd be surprised. I mean, because it's not really about the makeup. It's about
business.
Yeah, it's about the business, the personalities, you know,
really interesting.
of the content creators, and they just they can
booktube too, like copyright issues. Those are the really interesting ones when they get into copyright or people stealing each other's ideas.
Yes. So, oh my goodness. All right, I think we're caught up now. I remember you did a book a blog post about, you had a picture of your shelf and like the decks on your shelf, but I think that was a long while ago. So since then, I'm sure your collection has grown just because you're constantly getting decks for review. Do you have a number? Do you have an estimation of how many decks you just kind of have due to, you know, getting them for review and your own kind of personal tastes, or I have no idea at this point?
It's not shelf, bookshelves. So
shelves.
There's 2 bookshelves on my first floor that are full of decks. I have 2 bookshelves upstairs in 2 different guest rooms that are full of tarot decks. I have, I think, 4 or 5 chests, like those old attic chests full of tarot decks. And then I have a whole bunch of decks in the attic. So I have a lot of decks. I would say I have over 1,000. After I hit 4 digits, I stopped keeping track. I used to have like an Excel sheet. I would have like the publisher and the date of publication.
Yeah.
And then I think after 500, I stopped the Excel sheet.
Yeah.
And after 1,000, I just don't even keep track.
Yeah. So then, you just keep them? Do you have any thoughts of rehoming, or like, I don't know how that works when I'm assuming that you get the decks for review, but after you have them, you're free to do what you would like with them, right? So, but do you feel like, why not? I have the room. I'll just keep it, or is it something you just haven't gotten around to sorting through all of them to see which ones don't resonate with you that you would rehome, or just haven't given it thought?
I rarely rehome.
Okay.
The only times I have rehomed decks is because I found out I have multiple copies.
Ah,
So
okay.
if I, for some reason, oh crap, I have like 5 copies of this tarot deck. Why? What happened here? And then I'll rehome some of those copies. So that's the only time I've ever rehomed a deck, is when I have
Gotcha.
multiple. Right now, it's mainly just because I don't have children, and so I have a lot of space in my house. I don't store anybody else's stuff, and so
Right.
keeping the decks all over the place. But I do think at some point I kind of want to like cull it a little bit and start giving it away. Only because the main reason is because I feel like I want them used, and I feel like they should be used and loved. And so if they're just collecting dust in my attic, that's not fair either. And so I do want to at some point give it away.
Gotcha. Yeah, I have those feelings as well. I mean, there are certainly some decks where, if I've received them as a gift or they have sentimental value, I will hold on to them. But a lot of times, and there are some times where I feel like, oh, I feel like this person is meant to have this deck, or, but otherwise I do feel guilty if I'm not using them and loving them, so I totally get that. But so then it seems like you're not really actively then looking for decks, because hell, you've got plenty. And so now I've found out there I have a source of a library. So if I ever need a deck from you, I can just hit you up. Like, Benebell, do you have?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, absolutely. I kind of want to do that at some point. Just have a library of tarot decks.
Oh my God, that'd be
because
amazing.
it's so global, it's hard. Only people who are local can really have access.
Yeah, it's true. It is true. You're not really on the hunt for decks, because they're, you really, they come to you. But do you have particular preferences for what you would like to see in a deck? Like, certain art medium, or certain, I don't know, elements that you want to see in a deck?
So 2 ways, right? So in terms of collecting, I like to be really open-minded and have a little bit of everything, right? So I do like to kind of go off even my preferences. But if it's a deck that I'm going to really wholeheartedly like, advocate as this is a deck that I really love, or a deck that kind of elevates to become one of my working decks. Like if it's a working deck for professional readings, or a deck that I'll keep on my desktop, I do have a couple of things I notice I look for. So I do prefer to get a deck from a creator who is a practitioner, like somebody who's from the community or part of the community in some really entrenched way, or is like they're an established tarot reader, or established occultist. And I feel like that's a big preference of mine. So when it's a deck that you can kind of tell is somebody who stepped foot into this world because they thought it'd be fun to create a tarot deck over the summer, I'm not as into that. Yeah, that's pretty much, that's the biggest one is I kind of like, I call it own voices. I feel like it's about getting a tarot deck that's in our own voices.
Very true. Very true. Great point. Do you feel like we're seeing a lot of that? The like, oh, tarot, this looks like fun. I've only been doing it for like the summer, and like now I want to make a deck. Like, has that, I mean, maybe.
I do see that a lot, I do see that. Or people who, I don't know how to describe it, but people who don't have that personal connection to the community, who are just in a place where they're an influencer of some positioning, that they then can profit and capitalize off of the marketplace that is made entirely of members of our community. So that I don't always love seeing that, when you kind of have that person who sweeps in, and because of some particular identifier of who they are, or something they did in a different field, can garner this popularity. And in some way I have like love-hate relationship with that, right? Like on one hand you appreciate it because those are actually the people who bring visibility to the tarot community. And so love or hate it, they bring the visibility. And if they bring the visibility and give us that mainstream acceptability, then professional tarot readers get more business. People buy more decks. So how can you hate on that, right? But then at the same time, it does kind of feel like, why is it always people that aren't part of the community that are the most visible, that get all of the PR, right? Like I've seen even so there was an Asian American deck-ish thing that had like all of this press in the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, the New Yorker. And they were outsiders that kind of came in, right? Like they weren't really part of the tarot community. They didn't know a whole lot about the tarot community. And I even knew how some of them would speak behind closed doors about the tarot. And so if you have a condescending attitude toward the tarot, and then you're the voice of tarot in the New York Times, I have some feelings about that.
I think I know which deck you're talking about, because I think you actually wrote a review of that deck. Did you not? I mean, I'm not spilling tea because you had spilled it originally when you wrote. I mean, it was an honest review, and I agreed with it, because I mean, the focus of it was more of like, wasn't there a niche like mental health or something psychological? It was like psychology based. Are we thinking the same deck? And it was,
yeah, I had a lot of feels about that one.
Yeah.
You know, the Asian American Literary Tarot, I think it was called.
Yes, something like that. Yes.
Tarot, but it was the Asian American Literary something. Like on one hand, I loved what they were doing because I don't think we talk enough about mental health in the Asian communities. So I loved that. I just felt like maybe they might have wanted to talk to a couple of, maybe look up what tarot is in Wikipedia.
That's the thing. When I was looking at some of the cards, I was like, do they know tarot? Like it was very clear that, they weren't practitioners, that they, and I don't even remember why it was that they decided to choose tarot as the medium for this project. I don't remember.
I think there's a lot of reasons. I think that was at the beginning point where you're starting to see tarot was gaining a lot of popularity in writing circles. So for example, they started inviting tarot readers to, those major writing conferences. I can't remember the names of it. Like a lot of the writing retreats, like Bread Loaf was one, and a couple of others. I knew the Asian American Writers Workshop. There are a couple of different, like tarot was really entering the writing community. So there was a lot of visibility of tarot as the art form and the craft in the tarot community, in the writing community. And so I think they kind of capitalize on that a little bit.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right. Let me see. Hi, Jen. Hi, Summer. Evie. All right. Okay. So let me see what else here. And you did actually, in terms of just kind of switching gears here, talking about decks and collections and such. I mean, you did talk about Spirit Keepers being your soul deck, right? I know that's been like the catchy phrase going on, but
yeah. Well, I think it is my soul deck in terms of, like it has a lot of I would say my chi, right? Like my life force. And so that was another thing that I look for in tarot decks, right? Like in terms of the aesthetics, I want to be in, I think it's in Taoist and Confucian art and design principles. When they look at design, what makes for masterful art, what isn't masterful art. If you're looking at it from a Confucian perspective, one of the hallmarks is that the mark making or the lines, the line art of the work shows the personality, the character, the philosophy, and the spirituality of the artist. And so you have to be able to see the soul of the artist in the work under a Confucian framework for it to be a masterpiece. And so I kind of like to see that in a tarot deck as well. And so on the other side of that, the Spirit Keepers Tarot, I feel like as an artist, I put my soul into it. So if I put my soul into it, how is that not by definition a soul deck? But then on the same caveat, I don't think it's other people's soul deck. I think it's my soul deck because it's my soul, right? If other people find it to be a soul deck, I think that's just icing on the cake.
Gotcha. Very nice. Very nice. We have a question from Pamela. Benebell, would you say a few words about the divination conference coming up?
Oh, it's held by the World Divination Association. Tony's behind it, and she's awesome. I really like her. I was going to do something on psychoanalytic and analytic psychology, take what you can learn from that and apply to the tarot. So I want to talk about Freud and Jung, but then they have this whole tech issue where you can't show PowerPoints. Like there's a whole tech, either it's your talking head or it's PowerPoints. And I felt like 1 hour of PowerPoints without my talking head would be too boring. And so I had to switch gears. And then so now I'm going to do like just my approach to tarot reading, because I've been a professional tarot reader for so long. So I kind of want to break down how to be a successful professional tarot reader. So that's what I'll be doing at next Saturday.
Okay, very nice. Let's see, any other questions? Okay. So yeah, it's been great seeing you back on your channel, and you know, all of the lovely videos about how to use SKT, and just, you know, just all the wealth of information. Do you feel like you know, once that kind of series of videos is completed, that you will continue with maybe some other type of content, or do you feel like, you know, you really just came for, you know, SKT, and then you're really going to devote your time to other areas as opposed to your YouTube channel?
Yeah, I think I just came for SKT because
Right.
I feel like I do want to produce an orientation video set for people who are
Yeah.
coming to SKT brand new. You know, I think it's just useful to have that. It's a nice thing that creators can do. So it's created 100% just for the people who purchase the SKT Revelation deck. I don't close the door on anything because you never know what's going to happen in the future, but I don't have any plans or scheduling for making more videos. And, you know, I kind of feel like I don't think the tarot YouTube community is waning in any way, but I do feel like it is kind of in a lower level of the plateau of some kind. Like it's a little more dormant, or maybe that's just my vantage point. I don't know. But like it was really, there was a lot of heightened activity for a while. And I think I see a lot of burnout or fatigue, or people not knowing where TarotTube is going. And so you kind of see that. And so I've been noticing a lot of people laying low.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that I mean, I've seen that, and I guess it depends on which channels you follow, and because yeah, there I feel like with some content creators, you are kind of seeing that more of an ebb, and then but then I see an uptick as well with all of these newer tarot tubers coming in. And now I've only been on, I mean, I don't know how long the TerraTube scene has been. Like you know, I've only been lurking from 2017. I was a lurker. 2018 is when I started my channel. So that's like 4 years. So I guess that's quite a long time, but I feel like it's been, I mean, TerraTube has been on for longer than that. And so I haven't been privy to before, but I do feel like from when I was lurking and, you know, have been coming on to do videos, we're seeing a lot of new blood. And on top of
That's what
that,
it is. Faces
yeah,
have changed. That's what it is.
yes, and just, yeah, a lot of different voices and a lot of, I mean, it's, you know, the young ones with their tech knowledge, really. So you got a lot more kind of, you know, just more polished videos, you know, beautiful videos, and they're just, whereas before, I feel like, I mean, not that people,
Rainy late night videos.
yeah, like, yeah, it's, I mean, not,
I loved it.
yeah,
It was so good. And then like you ranted. There was a lot of lulls, but then they were very honest and raw.
yes, yes. So I do feel like there is that difference. I mean, and not to say, yeah, I guess it's not to say that the newer TerraTubers, like their content is like less than because of that. It's just a different aesthetic now. It's just a different, you know, a different vibe, I guess, where it's they're definitely more just tech savvy. Whereas I'm like, I mean, I learned how to edit, but aside from that, and I learned that, oh, okay, maybe I should get a light. But aside from that, you know, I'm using my phone and or a laptop, and that's about it, you know. Whereas I know that with technology, just on the fast pace, you know, there's always something new. And so, yeah, I've been seeing a lot more newer content with like just through a newer aesthetic, I guess, more polished aesthetic. So I do wonder if we'll see a backtrack to more, I don't know, nitty gritty. I think it was I was talking with Heather yesterday, and she was saying that, you know, these things go in cycles, right? So maybe we'll see more of the nitty gritty late night rants, where we're dropping the F bomb, or I don't know, maybe we'll see. But um, let's see here. I think somebody was mentioning that perhaps, yeah, Lily was mentioning going dormant, yes, because of Patreon.
Yeah, I'm
Patreon.
not a fan of Patreon yet. Like, I mean, I've been told over and over ad nauseum to go on Patreon. The closest I've done right now is Discord, and that's 100% free. So I have a free Discord channel, and it's not mine. It's kind of just I'm the moderator behind it. There's a whole group of moderators actually. So there's 4 or 5 of us that are moderating from behind the scenes, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But the Discord tarot community right now, and that's the closest. I know that's not the same thing as Patreon, but in my mind, it's the same thing as Patreon.
Yeah, I mean, I just, again, like, I'm not on the pulse. I signed up, logged in, created a Patreon account,
Right.
or not Patreon, Discord for the group because I got your the email notification, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing on here. Like, so I logged out right away. I'll have to log back in and check it out more, but because you were saying that you felt like it was Discord was pretty intuitive, like you liked the interface more than you did Patreon. So
I'm a patron for a couple of people, and
okay.
so my only experience with Patreon is actually as a patron, as a
Gotcha.
member. But then seeing it all, I mean, it wasn't my thing.
Okay.
I don't think that was for me. Discord, I really like because it is more of a community. I think we're all still learning. So for example, I was trying to get a couple of people in our community to do events, but then the older ones are like, I don't know how to work it. So you have to like create a login account for them and show them how to. So I think the tech is still really new, that a lot of people in our community still don't know how to use Discord. I mean, me included. I'm still like, I'm constantly testing. Hello, is anyone hearing me? And so it is very new. But
Yeah.
hi, Candy's room closet. Yeah.
Yes. Hello. Thank you. Thanks so much for being here. Zach, I'm eyeing my live stream now. Let me see. Rosemary, it takes a minute to get used to it, and the first few days were chaotic with everything getting started. Is that you're talking
the Discord.
Discord?
Oh.
Okay, good to know. I will try to learn. I mean, I even at least like you're doing stuff like TikTok. I feel like you still, you're kind of on the pulse of things where I'm just like, TikTok, I haven't been able to follow very well. And
I haven't done TikTok. I've only posted a couple, and like my TikTok is non-tarot. There hasn't been a single tarot related TikTok video. TikTok is still really new. There's some interesting things that going there. Do you watch TikTok at all?
I mean, I have an account and I go to it sometimes just to see what's on the feed. But then other than that, I don't know much about it. I wouldn't know how to use it. Like I wouldn't know how to create.
Feel so old. Like even as an Asian, like, okay, so did you know right now Gen Z Asians are saying, for example, you can't wear a jade necklace unless you're Asian. And wearing a jade necklace is cultural appropriation. But then the funniest thing is like some of it, when you're watching the Asian Americans talk about the origins of the jade necklace or the cultural implications of it, or when they even show photos of when they're talking about it, they're like factually wrong. And I'm just like, I'm too old to get into this. But like, yeah, like even within our own community, the ethnic community, there's a huge schism. Like there's a divide now, even generationally, I feel.
Oh, wow.
Like, I feel like I've always been very like bleeding heart lib, very like progressive, and like very on the cusp of like being a very activist, like a social activist in the Asian American community.
Yeah.
Back in the day. And so where I was then versus what you see in the activist community among Asian Americans today is so different. It's very, very different.
Yeah. I mean, I have only, in terms of TikTok and some of the
TikTok. You can't even say it right.
I can't even say it. I can't even words today. Anyway, TikTok. I feel like there's a lot of I mean, there's drama on all social media, but a lot of times when I'm getting wind of certain pieces, I feel like it's coming from TikTok, or I feel like, oh, which talk?
Yeah.
Was a
problem. Cursing the moon?
What's that?
I think they were trying to curse. Is that what you're talking about?
I don't know what I'm talking. Like, I just know that like witch talk, they were saying they were making stringent rules about certain things about how to witch, or I mean, just kind of general drama going on. I want to say maybe Lou Valcourt made a video responding to some of the claims on.
I love Lou Valcourt's videos.
I do too. So yeah, I just I catch wind of these things, which makes me think, oh, maybe it's a good thing that I stay off of TikTok because it just seems like there's a lot. I mean, I feel like there are probably good things on there too, but I'm too old to figure it out, so it's fine. It's totally fine. I'm just doing short TikTok with music over my. Oh, okay, that's awesome. Awesome, Rosemary. And then Poppy Flowers. Currently reading the Book of Maps, and I'm in awe of the content. Studying mythology is always part of the internet or something, or your interest, or something that came up as part of your study for deepening tarot.
I've always been interested. When I was in third grade was the first time I came across the word Zoroastrianism and Zoroaster. And so I remember it was in your social studies book. There was a little gray tab, you know, those little sidebars. There was a sidebar paragraph on Zoroastrianism. And I just went nuts over it. I took out my notebook and I started writing it. Then I had to go to the public library and I asked the librarian, can I find books on Zoroaster? And they didn't even know what I was talking about. And so I had to show them my notebook and my social studies book and this thing over here. And so, I mean, I've always had an interest in that. So for example, that's sort of the origins of angelology. You know, you see a lot of Gnostic beliefs coming out of Zoroastrianism. But then mythology, I think, like a lot of us, I've always gravitated toward every single culture's mythology. I just think there's something so fascinating about that. And so it was very natural for me to want to look into that more and explore that in my own tarot deck.
Awesome. Let me see. I think all social media has elements of toxicness. Yes. Just depends on how much you decide to pay attention to it. Very true. Very, very true.
I think my biggest thing for that, you know why though? It's because we don't have to look each other in the face.
Oh, yeah.
If you have to look someone in the eyes,
absolutely.
I'm not saying you don't tell the truth. You do tell the truth, but because you can feel their emotions. We all have enough empathy, unless you're a sociopath. You can feel enough empathy to know how to phrase what you want to say and communicate what you want to say in a way that's diplomatic. And so I think with the internet, like you lose that empathy. Everybody has like a little bit of that empathy taken away. And so then they can be less human almost. You know? And so we act less human on the internet.
Very true. Very, very true. There isn't very much fact checking into witch talk, but there are people doing the work to push against that.
Oh, that's nice.
That's great news. Yeah. That is great news. Absolutely. So, I mean, just kind of speaking of like the online community, you know, tarot, is there a certain direction that you would like to see the community and tarot going in that maybe you feel we haven't been, or
you know, I've had a couple. So at a couple of the tarot conferences pre-pandemic, a couple of the members of the community had pulled me aside and had said, hey, because they were really interested in the direction they saw the tarot community going in. So you have sort of the old guard, the familiar pillars of the tarot community, and they tend to be the people that frequent the rounds of the different tarot conferences around the world. They'll go to the UK tarot conference, they'll go to the one in Australia, they'll go to all the different ones in the United States. And then they tend to be slightly older, an older crowd. And then you have the sort of young up and coming tarot community members. And I think some of the people in these communities see me as somewhere in the middle, right? And so they talk to me about these issues. And I think you do see like a misunderstanding. There's like a gap in between the two groups that I don't know how to close that gap. I think that gap is always there. It's a generational difference. Like every generation is a little bit different. Even between my mom's practice of folk magic versus mine is very different. And she thinks I'm doing some really crazy, you know, outlandish things with it. She doesn't like, so for example, she tends to be more orthodox and purist. And I'm very syncretic, where I'm mixing in Western traditions, and she doesn't like that at all. She thinks it's kind of weird. Like, why do you mix the two? You know, and so you even see generational differences, and I think that's really all it is. So it's nothing serious, nothing new, but at the same time, what direction do I see the tarot going in? I think because I'm conscious of the fact that there's always going to be a generational divide. I think it's okay for it to go in the direction that it's going in, just kind of take a back seat and see where it's going to go, right? Because I think it's going to go where it needs to go, and that's fine. But then because I am a product of the older generation now, no matter how I look, it's more because I've been in the tarot community since the 90s. And so if you're in the tarot community since the 90s and you grew up around them, you start getting entrenched in a particular dogma and ideology of what the tarot community should be. And so when you're from that dogma and then you see the evolution of the tarot community go in a very different direction, there is some kind of like a dissonance that happens.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I agree.
You said you were in the community since the 2010?
No, only like 2017.
Oh, 2017.
Yeah,
Oh.
I mean, I had, yeah, in terms of knowing that tarot tube even existed. I mean, I was first introduced to tarot in grad school, and I was just very laissez-faire with it. I didn't really take it that seriously, and then got back into tarot around 2017. Found tarot tube, found you, found your blog, and all that information, and yeah, then started my own channel 2018. So I have not been in the, I haven't been in this tarot verse for in my opinion, very long. In a lot of ways, I still feel like, a learner, like I'm kind of at the beginning. Whereas I know that, yeah, a lot of people here have been at it for years and years. And, I've been at it for 4, like truly dedicated to learning the practice, for like 4 years. So yeah, I still feel like somewhat of a newbie. I mean, maybe not a newbie, but not a veteran, I guess.
In the mid to late 90s, when I first was able to drive, I would drive myself to the psychic fairs in upstate New York. And it was the same circuit, like it was the same group of people, no matter which county you went to. So if you were in Johnson City or Syracuse, Ithaca, wherever Binghamton, they would have these psychic fairs or tarot reading conventions at the lobbies or the conference rooms at various hotels. And so I would drive myself there, and that's I would meet those people. And then every time I saw a posting for one of those in the newspaper, yes, remember back when newspapers were delivered to your front door? So whenever I would see that there was a posting for one, I would drive to that city and attend those events. And that was the tarot community at the time. And then eventually it moved into like listservs. I remember Yahoo listservs was a big place. You had the discussion forums. So it was kind of like a discussion forum format at the time. And so that was a big part of how I engaged with what I saw as the tarot community. And I think YouTube happened in the, early 2000s, right?
Okay.
No, 2010. So I would say 2008 to 2010, around that time was when I started noticing, at least I noticed that there were tarot people on YouTube. And at the time, I kind of felt like they were all talking about, no one really talked about decks, like there wasn't like a deck walkthrough or like, look at my deck collection or like, this is my tarot haul. Like, I didn't really see that. It was more, let's talk about reversals or let's talk about elemental dignities or does Kabbalah belong in the tarot? Controversial opinion. Like these were sort of the videos that I saw. Or they would critique a book. So it wasn't just a book review, but maybe they would talk about how they disagreed with something in a book. Or, so it was very, I don't want to use the word substantive, but I kind of felt like when you were watching it, people weren't afraid to be very opinionated about how you do tarot, right? And so then there was controversy over that. And that was the thing, right? Like, oh, you shouldn't say how to do tarot. But then now I think we have become so reactive and scared of that it's like, oh, you do whatever you want, which is true. Like that is the truth. But I think we're so afraid now of just giving opinions and saying, well, this is how I do the tarot. Because if you do that, and I understand why, because anytime you say, well, this is how I do the tarot, you get a lot of backlash.
Yes.
And so I don't blame people for no longer giving more opinionated discourse on the tarot, but then we do lose that as a result.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think there's a part of it that algorithm wise, it seems like the popular thing is the deck unboxings and the walkthrough. I mean, that gets a lot.
Because I actually, so that's the thing, like I can't even criticize it because so like I'll click, when I see an unboxing, I'll click on it first. So I can't even bitch about it because like that's what I watch as a consumer, right?
Yeah, I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely not. And I think, that just seems to be the popular thing. That seems to be what gets a lot of the hits. And
like it gets my views.
Yeah, it gets my views. Absolutely, unabashedly. I watch them. I enjoy them. And And I enjoyed the substantive stuff, substantive, the talking about actual like practice strategies and opinions. And I do, yeah. And I also understand why people would be hesitant. Because to deal with backlash, to deal with some of the kind of cancel culture-ish reactions that people can sometimes have, like it can just snowball into something so ugly, when people don't know how to adult online, that you just like don't have the energy for it. You don't. And for my part, I believe that anyone can talk about anything on their channel. It's your channel. You can talk about whatever you want. You have that right. For my part, though, TerraTube has always been like a nice kind of safe haven for me in a lot of ways. Like I come on there to de-stress and to talk about the things that I love. And so the thought of me coming on to make a very controversial video to then be like lacerated and on the guillotine, like I think I'd rather not, if I'm being completely honest, just, yeah, no, thank you. So
yeah, I feel the same way, but then at the same time, it's kind of, I guess where I was coming from, why I don't think I'm going to be as active on YouTube is because if I can't create the
content that
I want,
yes,
I'm just going to not create content.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Just create, and the thing is, I think the lazy response is, oh, just create whatever you want. You do you. I'm like, well, clearly you've never experienced backlash.
Yeah.
You don't know what it's like to be transparent, to kind of say what's on your mind.
Right.
And so if you don't have that experience, to say, oh, just you do you, or just, follow your heart. I'm like, okay, right.
Whatever. Yeah, I totally hear you. Sorry, Lala, I missed your question. Apologies. For a newbie on SKT, would you explain the seeker and keeper purposes?
There's 3 key zeros. And so what I was thinking of, so in the older traditions, they would use either key 1, the magician card, as the significator for the male. And then they used the high priestess, the significator for the female. And it was just this gendered polarity like that, right? And then later on, they went into court cards that went with your physical appearance or your horoscope, your sun sign, right? And then you had some traditions that said key 0 was the significator. In the Atea, the last card in the deck was actually key 0. So number 78 was key 0. And then I think sometimes key 0 was put between key 20 and the world card, because the world card was like ascension, transcendence, the acquiring the great work. And then key 20 is that judgment. So 0 was put there. And the fact it was put between 20 and 21 also shows that has kind of this like significator vibe to it, right? Like because it represents you in the journey that is the spiritual trek that the tarot represents. And you have this idea of the fool's journey, right? And so working with all of that, I decided for my deck, I would just kind of, baldly make key 0 the significator card. And then it kind of gets rid of all of the like, well, it's based, the significator is based on how you look, or it's based on the day you were born. So it kind of gets rid of all of that. And it's just the key zeros. And then, so how does the significators work? So I decided to do the key 0 initiate card when you're beginning something. So it's that idea of regeneration. It goes with spring. And then key 0, the seeker card, is about you've already started on the path, but you've reached a point where there's a obstacle facing you, or it's a forking path and you don't know where to go from where you are. That's the seeker card, to get insight, to know where to go from here. And then the keeper card is more esoteric. It's about unlocking the deck as the Akashic records. So it's kind of like a sympathetic representation of the Akasha. And so then you're using the deck to access the Akasha. And that's kind of how I saw key 0, the keeper card. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it.
Awesome. Thank you. Dreamglow says, I think it's also true that things like unboxings appeal to an audience bigger than TarotTube. Yeah, a lot of people use tarot without partaking in the tarot community. Yeah, that's very, very true. Very true. And Summer's saying, I'll stick to Faye and such. That's what I love. And I'm here for it, Summer. All right. So I think we've gone through all the questions and such. And thank you to Sarah for flagging the ones I missed. There are a lot of people in the chat. So yeah. Anything else that you wanted to chat about? We're coming up on over an hour and a half, so I don't want to keep you or anybody else.
Anything you want to talk about?
No, I mean, I think we've hit a lot. Anybody else in the chat? Any remaining questions we have for Benebell? I mean, yeah, I think we hit on a lot of the topics. So going once, going twice. I think we're good. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for popping in on the live. I really appreciate having you here, and thank you to Benebell for coming on for a chat and just to kind of talk about whatever. And oh, thank you guys so much. So if you have any other questions, you know where to find me, and you know where to find Benebell. So have a great day or evening wherever you are, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.